The Declaration of Independence, its purpose, inspiration, and impact. The Declaration of Independence is a relatively short but rather complex piece of writing, mainly because it's written in an English that we don't often hear today. So it's a little easier to understand if you know where you are in the reading. So we break it down into four main parts: the preamble, the Declaration of Natural Rights, the list of grievances, and in conclusion, a final Declaration of Independence. Does this document look familiar? Take a look at the date. This is a copy of the original Declaration of Independence. When it was originally written, only about 150 to 200 official copies were printed and distributed to the larger cities and towns in the colonies for the people to review. Oddly enough, though, a copy was never actually sent to King George III in England. The Declaration was published, then brought to the King's attention by some of his advisors. Now, a preamble is not unique to the Declaration, but is fairly common in important documents. It's like an introduction, and will generally state the purpose of the document. According to the Declaration of Independence's preamble, what was the Founding Fathers' purpose in writing the Declaration of Independence? Why was the document written in the first place? If you read the actual text of the preamble from the Declaration, what do you think it means? When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to this separation. The Founding Fathers knew that the colonies were committing treason by declaring their independence from Britain. They also knew that war would likely be the outcome of such a declaration. And so, the purpose of the Declaration of Independence was, quote, to declare the causes which impel them to the separation, which means that they were issuing a public statement to the world containing the specific reasons why the colonies were justified in breaking away from Britain and even risking war and death to do so. The second part of the Declaration is the Declaration of Natural Rights. Now, this phrase natural rights may be familiar because you've already learned about the philosopher John Locke, who originally came up with this idea of natural rights. When Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, he used many of Locke's ideas. Does this sound familiar? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What were Locke's 3 natural rights that he listed? Are they the same? Really different? Slightly different? In fact, there's one right listed in the Declaration that is different from John Locke's. You may remember that Locke's 3 rights were life, liberty, and property. Think to yourself about whether property and the pursuit of happiness are comparable. Now, since the purpose of the Declaration of Independence is to specify why the colonists are justified in seeking their independence, this second portion, the Declaration of Natural Rights, is dedicated to first defining what the colonists' rights are, so that later on, when they talk about how they've been harmed, the rights are already in place and well defined. The next part of the Declaration talks about how these natural rights have been violated by King George III as the ruler of Britain. The list of grievances is the third part of the Declaration. So what is a grievance? A A grievance is a serious complaint where someone has been harmed by another in some way. In this third part of the Declaration, Jefferson specifically lists many ways in which the colonies have been harmed by the king. These harms have caused their natural rights to be violated. Now, over and over again, the colonists had petitioned for redress of grievances. What that means is over the several years prior to the Declaration of Independence being written, the different legislative bodies of the colonies had over and over and over again communicated with King George III to try and have the problems they're having corrected. So all these wrongs that were done to them, all this taxation without representation, blockades of ports so that Americans couldn't trade, all these things, they've asked for them to be corrected. One example of the communication that the colonists had with King George was the Olive Branch Petition, which is shown to the right in this picture. You can actually read the text of it online, and if you do, take a look at the writing, the language. How does it compare to the Declaration of Independence? How do the colonists communicate with the king? Are they respectful? Are they upset? Do they still consider themselves loyal British citizens? Now, in the list of grievances, 29 specific injuries are listed. One of them is that the king has repeatedly outlawed local legislatures. So local county, city, state legislatures have been outlawed. They've been dissolved so that the colonists can no longer pass their own laws. Beyond that, the king has also prevented the colonists from enforcing their own laws. They've outlawed any American colonial judges, so that in a lot of cases, actually, if a colonist was accused of a crime, if it was serious enough, that colonist may actually have to suffer the 3-month voyage back to England to stand trial there. Also, the king has forced the colonists to allow British soldiers to live in their homes. This is called quartering of troops. And the colonists had their right to deny quartering troops taken away from them. Additionally, the king has forced the colonists to pay taxes without allowing them representation in Parliament. You may have heard no taxation without representation. That's what this goes back to. He's also crippled the colonial economy by using the British Navy to blockade or cut off the seaports, allowing the colonists to trade with other countries. At the end of this part of the Declaration, Jefferson summarizes the colonists' situation. He says that these are the many wrongs that have been done to us, the colonists. We've listed them out clear as day. We've over and over again told the king what he's doing wrong, and over again he has rejected our requests for correction. Beyond that, he not only rejects our respectful requests, he injures us further by becoming more and more strict upon the colonists. So, the king isn't fulfilling his obligation to us, so we find him unfit to be our ruler. If he's going to reject us as his loyal subjects, then we are going to reject him as our king. The conclusion, or the final Declaration of Independence, closes out the document. It makes a clear, final, formal, and binding statement that the colonies consider themselves to be independent from British rule. They say that we have defined our natural rights. We have listed the ways in which our natural rights have been violated by our king, and we have made these declarations publicly to the entire world so that everyone knows that we're justified in causing all this trouble and in bringing war upon our country that we love. So now we officially declare our independence and willingly accept the consequences and responsibilities of this decision.